Today I'm taking part in the Liquitex Cadmium-Free Challenge and doing a little demonstration of this sky painting. Hi, I'm Lisa, the artist behind Lachri Fine Art. I was invited by Liquitex to take part in their Cadmium-Free Painting Challenge. Just for transparency, this video is being sponsored by Liquitex. Liquitex has come out with some new cadmium-free colors that are supposed to compete with their regular cadmium acrylic paints. But Lisa, lots of acrylic paints are already cadmium-free and non-toxic. Also, what's cadmium? The idea of a cadmium-free acrylic paint is not new in and of itself. The difference here is these additional colors are supposed to be as opaque, as bright, they're supposed to mix as well, they're supposed to be as light fast, everything is supposed to be as good as the cadmium counterparts. Cadmium is considered a toxic heavy metal, and so a lot of artists like to avoid it. It's especially going to be problematic if you were spraying it or airbrushing or something like that. You would want to avoid cadmium colors, you don't want to be inhaling that. So some artists are looking for a completely cadmium-free, non-toxic alternative. And this could be the answer if they do perform as well as Liquitex says. And for those of you who are just absolutely in love with your cadmium paints, don't worry, they're not discontinuing those. This is just a product that's going to be added to their already existing acrylic paints. It's not a completely new line. You'll find them where you would your regular acrylics from Liquitex. To participate in this challenge, Liquitex sent me a box with some acrylics that were marked tubes A and B. I had no idea going into this which ones were the cadmium free and which ones were the regular cadmium acrylics. These are all in the heavy bodied paints. They also sent me a tube of phthalo blue and titanium white to use on this project. So going into this, just like I was, you're not going to have any idea which side is which. Let me know if you had any ideas as I was painting through this. Let's go ahead and take a look at these paints in action. I've started by taping off the area where I'm going to be separating side A from side B. So I'm painting my sky. The top is just phthalo blue. I've got a little bit of water mixed in with that so that it'll flow smoothly. Adding some titanium white for some clouds here. I'm not too worried about my brush strokes yet. I'm going to get rid of those with a mop brush, which is actually a blush applicator. So you softened all of that out. Now I've got this nice smooth base. And one of the reasons that I wanted to include the dark blue in the background while testing these is I really wanted to get a good idea of how opaque each color was, how well they performed on top of very dark colors. So that's why I decided to go with this for my test. For the next section, I am mixing a deep purple. I just want a really dark color. I'm mixing red and blue together, working on side B here. I need this to kind of fade into my blue, so I want to do that while that blue paint is still wet. Both sides didn't have any problem getting nice coverage, very, very opaque on both sides. Really couldn't see any difference there. Now I've added tape just so I can more easily separate these two sides once I got into really testing the reds and yellows. So blocking that in, very bold colors, really, really opaque, which is pretty much what I've come to expect from these colors with the Liquitex Heavy Body. I just need it to fade from the light area out into yellow and then into the oranges and reds, using a mop brush to soften that out. Now I want to get this to fade a little bit, so I mixed my purple color again with the red and the blue, getting this dark cloud in there. Now, if I were to try to paint a scene where it was just a complete scene that I was going to sell the painting of, I would shape my clouds and everything a little bit differently. I've got everything centered here just so that we could really test these colors side by side better. But if you're following along for a tutorial, I would probably shape these so that they're not so even all the way across, get them more natural. But there you can see as I add that dark purple, again, very, very opaque, goes on really nicely. So the same thing, I'm starting with yellow. I've got a little bit of white that'll mix in with it for the center there. Now on side A, you can see on the left there, I've got a little bit of that purple mixed into my sky, so it's a little bit dull. I'm going to have to go back over that to fix that so that it's not so dull there. Because this side right off the bat with these first layers looks much, much more bright than the other side just because I've got that little bit of purple mixed in with it. But that isn't, I'm just pointing that out because I don't want you to think that that means that side is more dull than the other. It's just that mistake of having a bit of purple, but we'll fix that later. Not a big deal. Going on top now, bringing in some more of the red. And now when you compare this red with the red on the other side, I really can't tell a difference. To me, everything really does look the same. Coming on to blending my purple down into this, that nice deep reddish tone. I've got to make sure that there's no white mixed in there so I don't get the grayish tones for that base, that dark color I want. Now, to be honest, I expected to be able to tell a more clear difference between these paints on the palette, and I really couldn't. So luckily, I thought ahead and I did mark each palette with an A and a B. So as I'm switching back and forth as I was painting this one, I would rinse the brush between sides and switch to the other palette so that I could keep each section separate from the other. And so now I'm going to start playing with just some of the layering capabilities of this, how opaque they are, how rich some of these colors are, try to match the two sides up a bit better. Got some white mixed in there with that yellow. Back to doing the same thing. Just need a little bit more white there to color match that. Playing around a lot with this just to see how they layered. I mean, at this point, okay, I know when I blended them out, I really can't tell a difference between the two sides other than I mixed a little purple on the side A. But, I mean, they really do look the same. So what I want to start playing with is as I add smaller detail, little bits of the clouds, how opaque are they? How well does it blend? Is there any difference? Can I tell any difference at all? So little details, not necessarily going for super realistic. I'm just kind of using some of the techniques I would typically use when painting clouds just to get an idea of, is there a difference between these? Can I tell them apart? You can see how well that orange shows up against these dark colors. Very nice, bold, very opaque colors. So now we'll move on to side B, do a little bit over there. Again, really can't see a difference. Side B seems to feel very much like side A. So start layering on here. I've got that color a little bit deeper. I'm going to start pulling more of the oranges into this side of the clouds. And some little guys up above. This being darker than the blue, as I expected, it showed up really well over the blue. But what was impressive, or what I'm kind of really more concerned with at this point, is making sure that the yellows and oranges show up well against the blue, which they did. Making it a little bit more muted by mixing some of the purple in with it. So that side is definitely opaque. Really, really nice coverage, very bright, very bold. Then we've got to move on and do the same thing with the other side. A bit of wet into wet blending. And like I said, I was really just testing different techniques back and forth on all of these. I'm trying lots of different techniques on these clouds, not necessarily to get to a certain end goal, but to try different things, try different layering, try different blending, just to see if I could tell a difference on these. Testing the other side now, just repeating what I did on the first side. Same thing, yellow showed up really nicely over the dark, so did the orange. I decided that I wanted to add a shadow at the bottom, and then quickly decided, no, you know what? Let's put a mountain range instead. So I used the same colors as I did on the clouds, and then added my yellow and orange colors. Really couldn't tell a difference here. They just worked the same. And for my final touch-ups on this, I took some transparent mixing white, also the Liquitex Heavy Body, and some glazing medium, and added some rays of light coming from behind the mountains. I've got to get this area completely dry first before I do that. Just a few streaks coming through there. And that is it for my test. So we will go ahead and take a look at my final photo. There it is, side A on the left, side B on the right. Do you guys have any idea which side is which? I want to give you a second. Let me know which you thought was the cadmium side and which side was the cadmium-free side. My guess was that side B was the side that had cadmium and side A did not. I seemed to be getting a little bit clearer colors on side B than I did on side A, although that was because I got a little bit of purple mixed in with it. So I did have to go back and fix that, but it seemed like I just didn't have as much trouble getting my clear colors on side B. So I opened the envelope and found out, nope, user error, side B is the cadmium-free side. So the fact that those colors were I was having an easier time mixing, yeah, that was just because I got purple on the other side. It had nothing to do with the paint at all. So I was completely wrong. As I worked on this one, I was fairly certain that it was going to be side B as the side that had cadmium in it, and it wasn't. So I would love to hear in the comments below, which side did you think had cadmium and which did not? I would love to know, are you guys as excited as I am to have cadmium-free versions of some of these colors that are just as opaque, blend just as well? I was so surprised to see performance this well in a color that didn't have cadmium. So that was a big yay moment for me. If you have any questions about this product, I will have links to Liquitex's social media, their website, all of that will be listed below in the video description. Hey, have you subscribed yet? If not, I have a handy button right there. It's round, has an orange arrow going to it. If you click on that, that'll help you to keep up to date with all of my new art videos.